Welcome to the Jew and Gentile podcast. I am your host, Chris Katulka, and with me is none other than the Jewish sage himself, the one and only Mr. Steve Herzig. How are you, sir?
I am great. Today it's Potpourri.
Why is it Potpourri?
Potpourri, we are going to have numerous different things we're going to talk about. Not like one thing, but a potpourri of things.
So is it?
I don't even know what potpourri means.
Well, is it going to smell good? That's the question.
Well, I don't know. I hope we're not on the plane the way that lady was on the plane and they had a bio issue and had to land the plane. Did you hear about that?
I don't know. Wait, hold on a minute. Welcome in, everybody. We have to rewind now. Is there a rewind button to get us back? Wait, a bio problem with a woman on a plane? What are you talking about?
Well, you're talking about smell. Potpourri.
Potpourri,
does it smell good? I am telling you that just a couple of days ago, they had to reroute a plane because a lady had a problem in the bathroom and it went completely all over the plane.
Stop.
I am not kidding you.
Are you serious?
I am 100% serious. And I'm telling you that the pilot of the plane said it was so bad, he called it a
hazard.
A biohazard, and they needed to land the plane.
Here's the deal.
So potpourri, I hope it smells good.
They needed a lot of potpourri on that plane.
Chris, from the time I was in 8th grade on a bus that was a Greyhound bus going down from Cleveland to Cincinnati.
Going down. That's what this podcast is doing. Going down.
I learned I always carried double mint gum with me because I sat by the bathroom. And I put the double mint gum in my hand and I sat like this because every single time somebody came out opened that door, I wish I had potpourri.
Steve, let's just go back to this poor woman because forget about I wasn't even on the plane. I don't care. I look at that woman and I say, I am so sad for her. She didn't ask for any of this.
No, she did not. And either did the passengers.
But she's the one associated with it.
I know the poor thing had issues that it went even outside of the bathroom. I can't even imagine. Let's stop. I'm going to gag. Let's move on.
Gesund.
Yeah,
live and be
punch them all.
Yeah,
punch
here we
them
go.
all.
All right, well, we have a special guest with us today.
Do we have a special...
On that note...
On potpourri smelling good. We had her boss on last week.
Yes. That's right.
And
2 weeks ago.
Was it 2 weeks ago?
Unless Flanagan is her boss.
That's correct.
Yeah.
That's correct. It was 2 weeks
You're just inviting people all over the place. You can't even keep track.
I've actually invited our guest, who is, let's introduce her now, Roxanne Lightfoot.
Yes.
Hello, Roxanne. How are you?
Howdy, y'all.
Good to see you.
Look at her say you all.
I know. That's her Texan coming out.
Yes. I grew up in South Texas. And it's funny because I don't really have a Southern accent. It's because I'm an Army brat. But so they say the accents don't really come in until you hit like San Antonio and north, and you get the Southern drawl. Even though,
but you are a person who has traveled all over. You really don't have Texas is your home. You're now living in New Jersey, and first let's go to Lightfoot. You're married to David Lightfoot.
Yes.
And so I asked before we came on, you must have a story about the name. So tell us a little bit about the name you married into.
I know it's my last name was Villarreal prior to that, and so it's much easier.
Wait, say that slower. Hold on, say it slower.
Villarreal.
Villarreal.
Okay, that's the.
But that's the.
You gotta roll your R's.
Wait, let me try. Villarreal.
Beautiful.
Villarreal.
Do you know I've known you for so many years, and I know that was your maiden name, but I could never pronounce it, so I ran away from it as much as possible. But it's Villarreal.
Villarreal, yes. And then, but being in the military, they can't say Villarreal, so they say Villarreal.
Villarreal. I like that. That's great.
And if you're in Spain, it's Villarreal.
Wow. Where did the B come from?
I don't know.
Oh, the V and the B. That's always, those are exchangeable letters occasionally.
And it's interesting because my husband and I, we went to Spain. We've been there several times. And there's a town called Villarreal, and it means royal village.
Oh, really? Mm-hmm. Now, wait, I know that because when I've known you since 2000. almost 24 years.
Can you believe it?
It's crazy. And
you were just a kid when I met you.
I know. And now look, I've got a beard. The thing's crazy. So anyway, when we knew each other, though, you were Villarreal.
Yes.
But then in 2004, I remember I went on my very first trip to Israel with the Friends of Israel through our program that was once called the Institute of Jewish Studies, which you were a part of.
Yeah.
And maybe we can talk more about that in a moment.
Hey, she ran that thing.
I know she
Even
did.
though she was the unofficial running that.
I was just
Exactly.
the assistant. I was there to.
Yeah, but you made all the pieces work together, though. You put them all together. But all that to say, I remember meeting David Lightfoot for the first. I don't think you were married at that point.
No, he was rooming with another friend, Nate Graves.
Nate, that's right. And we all went over, and I went over with your boys, actually, Sam and John. And Joanna was on that trip as well. And we all had a great time in 2004. That was my very first trip to Israel.
Yes.
And that's when I came back from that trip, I said, I have to do that 1,000 times.
It was great.
But you've already done that you've been to Israel a bunch of times.
17 times.
Yeah.
Yeah.
That's amazing. So tell me, you are a graduate of the Institute of
Jewish Studies.
Jewish Studies.
Yeah, because we had just merged the year that I was at IJS. Will Varner
with the Institute of Biblical
Studies merged with Philadelphia Biblical University, and that became Institute of Jewish Studies in 1996.
And I remember that this was really important because for our listeners who don't know, and maybe some new listeners, the Friends of Israel's in the past, one of our feeder programs, the way we trained people to get involved in Jewish ministry was through the Institute of Jewish Studies, which before that was the Institute of Biblical Studies. And people would come from all over the place to get trained.
All over the world.
Yeah. And so you were a part of that, but then you refused to leave
I know.
in a good way.
I got adopted by Dr. Hurt.
That's right. Talk about your experience serving Friends of Israel through the Institute of Jewish Studies. You started that in what, I guess 1997?
96. So I actually had to wait a year to come. I had spent a summer in Russia before I heard about Friends of Israel. And it was interesting because I was in Russia with a teammate, and she lived here in Jersey. And I was sharing with her that I just have always had a heart for Jewish people in Israel, and which started when I was 15. But I just didn't know there was a school to train missionaries. And so my brother, who's a missionary in Mexico, went to it's called the Rio Grande Bible Institute in Edinburgh, Texas. And so they did everything in Hebrew, and now he's been a missionary in Mexico for about 30 years now. And when I told her about that, I said, I just wish there were a school to help train me. And she says, there is. It's called the Friends of Israel Institute of Biblical Studies. I drive by the campus all the time. And so when I got back to the States, she sent me a packet of information from you guys.
Really?
And I opened it up and I said, like the Shekinah was there. It's like everything just fell into place. And so Will Varner gave me, I filled out, Will Varner called me. And
Will Varner, who is still teaching at Masters now.
I saw he posted on Facebook the other day, I'm in my 70th, 70th year of being in school.
Yeah.
He's like, I'm a 70th year student, you know. I'm in
standing on his
70th
porch.
grade.
He was
70th grade, that was what it was.
Still teaching away at Masters.
And so he interviewed me to come to the school, and he says, but unfortunately we're starting, so you have to wait till next year, which worked out perfectly because I was able to, work 3 or 4 jobs to save up money for the school, and I got a car and I drove up here that following fall in August. And that's when I met everybody at IJS. I met Dr. Hurt, Bill Cruson, Mitch Treisman, you, Alice, and everybody that year.
That's amazing. You know, that year, I'm sure, I know it impacted you because you became a part of the family of the Friends of Israel after that. You know, people would come in and get trained, and then they'd get sent out, and God would call them to do various things. Some would go into secular work. Some would go do ministry in other places. I was at church a couple years ago, and a lady got up and spoke about her ministry at Papua New Guinea. And then somebody came up to me and said, oh, she did the Institute of Jewish Studies, or it was IBS, Institute of Biblical Studies. And I thought, wow, that's amazing. That's somebody that was trained by the Friends of Israel is doing ministry in Papua New Guinea. And then we have workers here at the Friends of Israel who are who have graduated from the Institute of Jewish Studies. It has had for the time that it ran in person, it had a profound impact on ministry globally.
No question. And Chris, if you think about it, Institute of Jewish Studies, if you're really going to get a handle of the Bible, don't you think you ought to know about the people of the Bible? And you could go to, I would say, you go to Papua New Guinea, you learn the language, you talk to them, you say, hey, I learned about the people in this book. I've actually met some, and that would give you some swag.
That's right. So yeah, that's
Chutzpah.
Some chutzpah. That's right. Hey, how did you say that?
Papua New Guinea.
But you said it really. You had a.
Papua New Guinea.
What did you say? How did you?
I don't know. What
you just had a nice little like a Papua New Guinea.
Papua New Guinea. That's Italian.
Italian.
I like the way you said it. Mine's just like Papua New Guinea. You got a little flair in there, like you've been there a bunch of times.
Not at all. But I still want to get to Lightfoot.
Oh, okay.
So,
sorry, I'm taking us way
we want
off.
to know about Roxanne, but Lightfoot, tell us, Dave. You met. Obviously, you fell in love and all that very important stuff. But come on, Lightfoot's an interesting name. There was a singer who was like, what do people say?
So we always get this, are you Native American? And we're like, I wish you have any scholarships I could have.
I know, 100%. That's right.
So Lightfoot goes back to the theologian Lightfoot.
Oh, okay.
Oh, he's related to.
I believe so.
Wow.
Yeah, it goes back to him. And it's British. It's actually British.
All right.
And so.
And no, you're not. He's not related to
Gordon.
No, not to Gordon.
So, no.
But he has been stopped by a policeman who said,
Lightfoot, more like Heavyfoot.
That's
okay,
a good
officer.
one.
"That's at least the cop had a good sense of humor."
Oh, that's great. So you met David. What was it like when he went on that first Israel trip? Was that fun for you?
That was.
Were you guys serious at that point already?
Well, yeah. So yeah, we had decided that we were going to date, but he had to come to Israel. That's part of the.
That's the checklist. You got to check
That's
that
right.
one off.
And so here's the thing: David is a mathematician. He is truly a polymath, and he had only heard of all of the things that have happened in Israel, all the negative things that have happened, and so, but as a mathematician, he did a statistical review of the chances of him getting, hurt in Israel. And he says, well, I'm more likely to get struck by lightning or win the lottery. So I'll go to Israel with you.
Oh, nice. Way to do math to solve that. I like that.
And so we just had such a fantastic time, and we really just got to know each other better on that trip. And I got to see his heart change.
Mm-hmm.
And, but the most, and after we got back from Israel, we did a Passover Seder for IJS. And Mitch Treisman did that Seder. And all of the knowledge that he learned from the Passover Seder just really changed his heart and really made him like, this stuff is really interesting, especially from a biblical perspective, which he was growing in the Lord at that time as well.
Well, you and I and David had a reunion in March because we all went back to Israel again, which was awesome. And you had some more family members there. You, after so many years of serving with Friends of Israel through the Institute of Jewish Studies, eventually the doors closed on the Institute of Jewish Studies. Yeah. And so you moved away. You and David sailed off into the sunset together and went.
Long.
Yeah. And you went
Thanks for all the fish.
That's right. See you later. Sayonara. But then all of a sudden, God brought you back to the Friends of Israel. Share about that.
10 years later. So David, so after I left Friends of Israel, IJS, I thought, well, what am I going to do? So we do have a family business. So I thought, okay, I'll help with the family business. And so I did that for a while, did a lot of traveling with the family business. And at that same time, David had gotten a job offer in Baltimore to be the head of a school for a school with kids with learning differences, learning disabilities. And so,
put the mic near you.
Right
there you
here.
go.
Okay.
Kiss the mic.
And so he's the new headmaster at this school in Baltimore, and it really was along that lines that from then on. So we went to Baltimore, where he was the headmaster there for a few years, and then from Baltimore we moved to Massachusetts, where he's the headmaster of another school for children with learning differences. And then from there, the Lord just put it on his heart. He's like, I just want to work for a school that I can share my faith. And so he became the headmaster of a small Christian school in South Berwick, in Maine, and it's called the Seacoast Christian School. And it was a very small Christian school. And so we moved up to Maine, and so we're like moving all the way up. And I was working for Child Evangelism Fellowship at the time, and I was sitting in my office and I was looking through Is My Glory, as I always brought it to work, and I saw, oh, there's Steve Herzig, there's Tom Simcox, all these familiar faces. And And I decided to go online and just surf. I had just joined LinkedIn, and I saw that you guys posted that there was a job opening for Jim's assistant. And I jokingly said, I would move back to Jersey for this job. JK. Because Jersey, it's Jersey. From Maine to Jersey.
100%.
And so I just kind of brushed it off for a while. And I came back to the office one day and I said, I wonder if that job is still open. And so I texted Tom Simcox and I said, Tom, do they have somebody in mind? Are you looking in-house? Do you know? And Tom said, Roxanne, send your resume in now. It's time for you to come home. And I started to cry. And I said, you know what? Let me pray about it. So I sent my resume in. A few days later, Jim called me. A few days later, he flew me up here for the interview. And that's when I saw you guys.
That was amazing. I was so surprised to see you.
It was amazing.
It was a reunion, and I think Jim saw that, and so you guys have known me forever. I mean, I used to do laundry at your house, Steve, and
a lot of people did laundry
at Steve's house.
Poor college students, you guys took such good care of us. And then, I still remember Chris, the first day of IJS. Chris, we're sitting in a circle, and everyone sharing their experience of how they got to IJS. Can I share the story?
Go ahead.
Okay. So we had this very unique student come in, an older gentleman named Joe Ramos. I don't know if I should say that. And he said...
Well, you already said it.
There you go. Can't erase it.
Delete. But nobody knows him. But he said, I left like a $40,000 job a year to come to this program, to this IJS. And I'm looking forward to it. And Chris came up. I left like a $10 job to come to IJS. And he's like, no big loss, but I'm here.
I'm here. It's true. I was living at home. I was 18 years old.
It was just, I just lost it. I laughed. But it was always, I got to meet so many students.
Yeah.
And even though I wasn't able to go onto the mission field, I felt like the Lord was using me to minister to the students so that they can go to the mission field.
Yeah. And they went everywhere.
Everywhere.
Really, that was a launching pad for a lot of different
100%.
groups.
I just want to let our listeners, remind our listeners that the Jew and Gentile podcast is sponsored by FOI Equip. And in some quasi way, FOI Equip has become kind of the Institute of Jewish Studies, but in component parts. So in the past where you'd come to, you'd be housed at a college and you'd get training for 9 months and receive credits, and you'd do ministry and you'd learn the scriptures. You'd get hands-on experience. You'd get biblical education through college credit, all that stuff, with IJS.
And you'd have to pay
mucho
dinero,
that's right, mucho.
It was not that bad.
No,
I'm still paying
off.
You had to pay.
I'm still paying off my college. No, I'm joking. 40 years later. But I am saying the FOI Equip has kind of become the components of IJS. It's not the full thing, but if you want experience interacting with the Jewish community, you can go on Encounter. If you want training in Jewish ministry, you can go to Bridges. If you want to learn more about the Bible from a Jewish perspective, bada bing, bada boom, you can listen to the Jew and Gentile podcast, or you can go to our FOI Equip classes. If you want to go to Israel and serve and learn more, you can go on Origins or Hesed. So we have all of these component parts that are making up it's not IJS, but it's kind of a quasi.
It's a potpourri.
It's a potpourri.
It's IJS on like 2.0.
That's right. That's right. We owe it to COVID. We've talked about it here on the podcast, how things had to change. And so I think it's better. It was always good, but it's because, first of all, Equip is free. It's free.
It's free.
Free.
That's right.
As we like to say.
If you want to take out a loan, take out a loan. It's cost you nothing.
That's right. It's free. And in fact, next week, I'm on.
That's exactly right. That's what I was trying to get at, is that with FOI Equip, we're going to be able to do some great teaching. And one of the, if we're learning the Bible from a Jewish perspective, we have to talk about the fall feast of Israel. And that's why Steve's going to be doing, starting September 14th, Thursday, 7:30 p.m. You can go to foiequip.org right now and register. And Steve, you're going to be talking about 3 very important fall holidays.
I'm planning on doing that: Rosh Hashanah, Yom Kippur, and Sukkot.
That's exactly right.
And we're going to have, it's an opportunity for students, if you want, people who come. I don't even like to use the word students, but we want to invite you to come, and we have a time of discussion. There'll be opportunities for questions. We'll go over what Jewish people will be doing over these next 3 feasts. Very important. God put them in Leviticus. We've covered in the podcast. We went through, how many weeks did it take us to go through?
I know. The first 50 episodes, I think, were dedicated to the book of Leviticus. We haven't gone back to like a book like that in a while, but I want to bring that up in a moment, but I'll let you finish.
We're going to do, it's from Leviticus 23, but it's the last 3 feasts. And I think it's going to be great.
I think it's going to be awesome. Hey, we have a text line, 424-444-1948. If you're listening live, you can text us. If you're going to be listening later on, you can still text us, 424-444-1948. Steve, I got a text message from area code 210 that says this podcast has blessed my husband and I immensely, especially the Yiddish word of the day. Getting a lot of priceless looks as I incorporate them into common day speech at work.
I want to hear them pronounce the word.
I want to see her say, man, my boss is a total schlemiel. No, that's probably not that. It's probably the good stuff. I'm just trying to think of all the good stuff we've done with Yiddish words.
We're a bunch of schleps dealing schlock. That's us.
So that was good. And there have been a couple other. There was somebody, though, I wanted to bring up a person who commented on our YouTube page. And the thing about our YouTube page is I'd like to remind our listeners that they can actually go and subscribe to our YouTube page. And that would be a great help for us in promoting the program, promoting the teaching that we're doing if they go and subscribe. But somebody, I'm trying to see where it is that they commented because it was so nice what they said. And now look at, here we go. No, never mind. I'll have to find it later. But somebody wrote something very nice about the podcast and they were thankful that they were able to see us and not just listen. And they were able to see us.
And did they tune in the next week?
Here it is.
Came back?
Look, it popped up. It said, this one person wrote in and said, I'm used to listening to you guys on Spotify. And since I discovered the podcast only a couple of months ago, I've been listening to the episodes in order. I know this went on air more than a year ago, but it's just so much fun to have the visual elements instead of just the audio.
Poor guy. He must not have a life.
Poor lady.
Oh, poor lady. She must not have a life.
I hope she continues. She says,
we want her to listen, but I feel bad. Oh, this is so good.
She likes looking at us, Come on. You guys are... There you go. You're better off looking at the bobbleheads.
Better off at the bobblehead.
You guys are great, and the Lord has been using FOI to equip me as a Christian to my own ministry. I'm thankful for your lives and for this channel. May God bless this ministry greatly.
And we're thankful for you.
We
are,
much.
Aren't we?
100%. So text us, 424-444-1948. We'd love to hear from you. If you have questions, comments, concerns, we're going to send the concerns right over to Steve.
Well, wait a minute, Chris. We've been asking, and we're still in the process, or if you're Canada and a listener, process. We've asked our listeners if they text us. We have our cups.
We got our mugs.
The mug on a mug. We have our mugs on a mug. But we want to get a count once we get our website up and running and the place for them to donate and all that kind of stuff. But we've been asking, how many would they want? And we've had a few people.
We've had people, I want 4, I want 3, I want 1, I want 4.
We want to ask again this week.
So I know, they keep texting, and I keep saying, we'll send you a link soon.
We will send you a link soon. And actually, the more texts we get, the better we can go to the department that is necessary to make this stuff work.
Oh, and guilt them?
Say, a little guilt never
a little Jewish
hurts.
guilt.
Just say, look, we're in place. We got everything. We got the cup. I went to shipping. I got the box to be able to put it in. Now,
how would your mother say, we've got the stuff. We've got the box. Okay, come on. Let's get this thing going.
That's right.
Yalla.
Yalla. That's right.
That's right. You got to explain that, Roxanne.
What's yella?
People are thinking of a dog.
Old yeller.
Old yeller. What's yella?
It was the first word I learned in Hebrew or
Arabic.
But it's a very practical word.
Yeah, it means let's go.
Let's go.
Hurry up.
Get her done.
Yeah, get her done. That's right. Yella. I know
I'd like her to translate Hebrew books. Get her done.
Get her done.
Here's your sign.
Shalom, y'all.
Shalom, y'all.
All right. So, Steve, we promised people that we'd be looking at the state of the Bible.
Yes.
Because we have a report that came out from the American Bible Society on the state of the Bible. You've got a serious report here in your hands.
I do. I printed it out.
If you're watching on YouTube, Facebook, wherever, I mean, good night.
Makes me look smart.
I'm telling you. Are you going to read the whole thing?
No.
People are turning off the channel right now.
No. You know, this is interesting. If you're interested in what Americans do with the Bible, just the Bible and America, every year the American Bible Society puts out a study and gives us, you know, the president gives a State of the Union.
Yeah.
Well, this is the state of the Bible.
2023.
And so you could go online. You're going to send a link.
I've already got it in our show notes.
It's already in the show notes. And let me tell you some of the things that I gleaned. It's a potpourri, right?
Okay, here we go.
Potpourri.
Every time you say potpourri now, my mind goes to that airplane with the lady on the airplane.
It's not her fault.
It's not her fault.
It's not her fault.
I just think somebody get her some potpourri.
You know?
Or poopery.
Potpourri. It's going off the rails, people.
Okay. The state of the art, by the state of the Bible. Sorry. State of the Bible. Chris, in America, according to this study, 77% of Americans own a Bible. Not 100%. 77% have access to a Bible. Now, what does that mean? Do they read it? No, they divide it up into 3 different groups. Those that are engaged, those that are moderately engaged, and those who are disengaged. Let me tell you what happened. The engaged group are people who read the Bible. This is engaged, mind you. They read the Bible, Roxanne. Guess how many times a year was the minimum to be engaged?
High holiday. Let's say
No,
3 times.
Oh, it's 3 to 4 times.
I would say
3 or
Easter,
4 times a what?
A year.
That's engaged?
That's considered, and they said in the study, we're doing this to try to be as liberal as possible.
Oh.
So they consider you engaged in the Bible if you read it a minimum of 3 to 4 times. You're disengaged if you don't, and you're moderately engaged if it's 1 to 3.
They consider that moderate.
Exactly.
Wow.
Exactly. Now, here's the deal.
Do they define what it means to sit down and read? Like, are we sitting down and reading a chapter, or are we sitting down?
It's a survey, Chris. And look, I mean, as I look, they have charts.
I know they do.
It's all. We want people to read the study. I'm just going to highlight, or potpourri, of what they said. So in 1 year's time, it went down. The disengaged went up. It went up. There are only about 39% of Americans who are engaged in the Bible. Last year, 2022, there were about 50%.
Wow.
Now it's 39%.
What happened to 20%? That's amazing.
That means that people, and by the way, Roxanne, haven't you sensed in our culture that people are moving away from the scriptures?
Absolutely.
Haven't you? I mean, we didn't know numbers. They're supplying, the American Bible Society is giving you actual numbers. And they're saying, look, you're engaged if it's 3 to 4 times.
We just need you to do it 3 times.
But so 2022, you were engaged. 50% of Americans were engaged. Now it's 39%. And so, but there's an interesting statistic. 71% of Americans would like to know more about the Bible and Jesus.
I see. This is the stuff that I love.
This is so amazing. This to me is so encouraging, and it is to them too. What they write about is this is what we have to concentrate on. You know, there was a movie where it was called The Matrix.
Oh yeah,
my favorite movie.
Okay, The Matrix.
Is it really?
You load up. Remember when they said load up? They stick something in the back of your head.
That's right.
And all of a sudden, you could be whatever you need to be.
You could fly a plane.
Okay. Well, I look, as soon as I read, remember, 77% have a Bible. 39% are engaged. But 71% want to know. In other words, if there was a matrix and it had Bible and Jesus, load me up.
Yep.
Look, they don't want to read. They don't want to talk to anybody. They just want to know. And so to me, that's encouraging. That's why we have outreaches like the Jew and the Gentile podcast and like Equip. People could sign up And if they want, they could learn about things without having to open up we want them to, but it's maybe a step for them to help them. But
why do you think it is that people, like, 77
have a Bible.
Oh, what's the percentage?
71% want to know more about the Bible and Jesus, but they're not necessarily engaged.
That's what's because it's amazing because it's right there. Like, if they want to engage, I think there's so many opportunities to engage. But it's interesting to me that, I wonder what they're waiting for.
Let's do an analogy here. How many people want to have men want a 32-inch waist, and
all right, you win.
And how many women want to lose X number of pounds, and then they see the cookies and they say, yes, I do, but forget about it. That's the way we live in that kind of culture. Yeah. I think we need to talk about that. If somebody could give it to me without me doing anything, that's what I want. I think there's a difference between saying I want to versus really wanting to.
Yeah, this makes me want to make Facebook Reels or YouTube Shorts where we just read a passage, like read one verse, and then let people watch it, and boom. Because that's what, it's funny because people, same thing with working out. We should work out, but sorry, I'm too busy scrolling through social media right now.
It's our culture. Knowing that, I think those of us who are devoted to Christ, those of us who know that the gospel has to go out, I think that's what the early church did. They're out there. They know there's people out there, and they know that there's going to be people out there who don't want to hear, but there are always people who want to hear. My father was in sales, and I used to ask him every time he got home, did you sell anything? And so some days he would say yes, some days he'd say no. Can you imagine being a salesman? That's what my father did. And I used to say, but Dad, they're going to say no. How many times can you hear no? He said, I don't care how many people say no. I'm interested in the people that say yes.
Yep.
But that's a different way than I was thinking.
Yep.
Why go out? They're going to all say no.
Yeah.
Who needs the aggravation? They're all going to say no. I'm not going out.
That's
not my dad.
Predestination makes it easy.
Not my dad. My dad said, oh, no, there's somebody out there, and I want to meet them. Mm-hmm. And that's the way that's what this study, for me, as just gleaning a couple of things, the main thing for me is that 32%, between the 39 and the 71, the 32% who say, I really do want to know. Mm-hmm. I'm not necessarily motivated at this point, but we have the Holy Spirit, God's Holy Spirit, He finds those people and matches us up. We all have stories, testimonies. And so there are people out there. We know statistically, ask your husband, statistically, there are people out there who want to know, and we got to find them.
A couple of years ago, Jim Showers had brought up this report that had talked about, it was depressing, the fact the large number of young Christian adults who are, I don't want to say they're turning their back on Israel, but they don't consider themselves supporters of Israel. Mm-hmm. And I think it was like at that point it had dropped a bit. And I think it was like 30% said they supported Israel as young adults. And then like the other 23 or 24%, supported the Palestinian people. But then it said
there's a whole group of young people are going, I don't know.
Yeah, they're saying, it literally says, I don't know.
I don't know.
And it's everywhere in between the 33.
We want those people.
That's exactly right. And I look at those things, I'm like your dad. Like I understand. Like I was trying to think when I was 18 or 19 or 20, I was going to the Institute of Jewish Studies. But even then I'm thinking, let's see how life pans out. You're not thinking like that when you're young. So there's so much opportunity for teaching and sharing the good news. And there's 71% of people that are saying, I'm interested. And I think it actually puts the burden on us as Christians to find ways to engage people with God's word because they want to be engaged with it. But like you said, sometimes you got to, what's the word? People don't like to go work out, but sometimes people like a coach. They like someone to help them through the process. You know what? When I go work out, I use an app, and the app tells me what to do. Go here, do this. Go over here, do that. Because on my own, I'm like, I don't know what to do. But I have a little digital coach that walks me through the gym, and I feel good when I leave. It actually is a motivating app. What about the same for us as Christians in motivating people to get involved in God's Word?
Well, Chris, we have an example that happened today. A number of weeks ago, I'm talking until last year on our podcast, we had a young man who is on his way literally to Israel with Bruce Scott and our Origins team.
No, he was on his way to Encounter.
Oh, okay, sorry, Encounter. Yeah. So he was on his way up to New York and then Philadelphia. And we asked him to be our guest, just like we asked Roxanne to be our guest. And he didn't know, it's not like he didn't know anything, but he didn't know a lot about the Jewish people. And he went on Encounter. And he has since connected with our staff. He's on the West Coast. And Chris, we just talked to him about what?
About coming on full time with Friends of Israel.
We just talked to him about the possibility. And less than 2 years ago, he didn't know from nothing. Mm-hmm. And now he does. And it's not like we persuaded him. We didn't. God did. But we had something for him to get experience in, to walk the streets of New York, not get our people in his head, get the people into his heart.
Yeah.
And so you walk the streets of New York, you eat a corned beef sandwich, you smell the aromas, potpourri, good aromas. You go to a synagogue down in Philadelphia, you meet the people who are worshiping on Shabbat. Those are the people that they're talking about that are that need to, they want to know, but they might not even know how. In fact, interesting, they asked the question to people my age, baby boomers, what is preventing you from reading the Bible? For the number one answer for millennials, time.
Yeah, of course.
We don't have the time. I don't have the time. I got other things to do. All right, so then they asked your generation, and then your generation's answer wasn't the same thing. You know what your generation?
Wait, I'm a millennial.
Yeah, they asked millennials. The number one answer why millennials don't in this study.
Wait, you just said millennials don't read the Bible.
Sorry, boomers.
Oh, boomers.
Sorry, boomers don't have the time. My age.
Can I tell you? Wait, can I say something really quick? You know, my kids tell me funny things that they learn, like words they learn that are new to me. I don't know them. And you know what my kids say to me if I do something that's kind of old?
Uh-oh, what did I do?
No, well, not you, but you know what they call me, which I'm not, though. This is how I am perceived. They go, "Oh, Dad, you're such a boomer." Boomers are like the greatest generation. You guys are like...
No. My parents' age is the greatest generation.
No, I'm saying you're at that age now.
Oh, that's right, yeah.
Where they're going, oh, that guy's such a boomer. Well, which means you're just... You're
old.
You're old.
Yeah, you've seen the light.
You're not tight-skinned.
And just so they know, if they ever listen, if you ever punish them and make them listen...
Here, I'll give you your money. That's right, I'll give you your money back.
Right? No. I'm paying up.
That's right.
I'm actually creating a bank because we call them the four horses of the apocalypse. $4 more bucks.
I want you to hold that money up and say, hey, look what this boomer's giving you right now. Look at that.
That's right.
Look at that boomer, the mover.
The four horses. I think I don't have a bank anymore.
You're okay.
Okay, so the number one answer of millennials was, we don't know where to begin. We don't know how. Think about that.
That's huge.
So my age group said, we don't have the time. They know what's involved, but we just say, forget it. I don't have the time. Your generation says, oh, time's not the problem. Just like you reacted, look at that 125-page thing. How could you go? You're all freaking out. They say, I don't know how to start. Chris, if we can get, not just us, the American Bible Society, any evangelical group, churches, that's what they want to do. Give us a chance.
Yeah.
We'll show you. We can help you. That's why church programs, they have VBS. They take little bites here and there. We have Awana. We have women's studies, young married couples, all kinds of different things that try to meet people where they are with the Word of God so that we can help you navigate how to begin.
100%.
Because do you know what happened to me? What happened to you, Roxanne, when you were introduced to the Bible? Where'd you start reading? What did you do?
So I was saved when I was 6 years old.
Okay, so you were raised in a church. And when you first started to read on your own, where did you start?
Matthew.
Okay. Very not uncommon. You started in the New Testament.
Yes.
Which is great. Chris, what about you?
Same thing. I remember my first time sitting down, and it kind of pierced me, and I remember it was 1 John.
Okay.
But you know, though, there's something...
But for me, it was true. Genesis.
Oh, that's true.
Of course.
I remember I had my Bible safe. The Word of God is holy and pure. I had a white leather Bible with gold around, and I didn't want that messed up in any way. And unbeknownst to me, 3 weeks before I went to California on a trip, out of the blue in my head, that's the way I'd explain it. Hey, you got time. You're not working right now. You just graduated. You're leaving in 3 weeks. I pulled out that Bible. Where do you begin? Genesis.
Yeah.
I started to read. And so when I went to California and I was first witnessed by my sister, she said, "Oh, you know the Bible that we got from synagogue?" And I said, "Yeah, I started to read it 3 weeks ago."
Amazing.
And I had not. So we want to show people you could start in Genesis if you want. You could start in Matthew or 1 John. You got to start somewhere.
But you know, though, your experience is probably different because I grew up in the church as well, and you grew up in the synagogue, which is still, though, an Orthodox synagogue, so they still had a high value of the Bible.
High value.
You know, there's a generation of millennials that are my age, and it's funny because I'm on that old end of millennial. My other youngest sister is a millennial, and she's a completely different. You know, there's a big spectrum of millennials. But you know, I do think that there's a generation of people that were not raised to think that the Bible was important.
They don't know what to do.
They literally have no idea how to begin, where to start, what to understand. We've kind of, you know, in the past, you would write, authors would write books and use biblical characters because they assumed you knew exactly who that person was. You know, that book about the whale. What was that? Hey, this isn't good.
Jonah?
No. The book about the
white whale?
The big whale.
Moby Dick.
Moby Dick. Yeah, Moby.
And it starts off with the character Ishmael. But you have to know who Ishmael is. There's so much Western literature that is based around but today our culture, they don't know these stories. And so we've emptied out culture. So now what happens is, not only are you not getting the Bible stories from secondary teaching, now there's nothing. You're reading an ancient book and they have no idea where to start. But I do want to say this. Somebody texted us because they're listening online right now. It's who is our friend? Karen Sanborn from Redding, California says this. Yes, a short YouTube video of scripture being read would be great. And she said, boomers don't have any time. Oy vey. Okay. Thanks, Karen.
Thanks, Karen.
That's great.
What an encouragement that is. But it is interesting. For instance, in the time that we live, we have chapel here at Friends of Israel. One of the things I did when we had a chapel is I found, you remember I think it's called the Bible Project. I can't remember, where you hit the YouTube thing, and he'll do a whole book in the Bible while he draws.
It's fantastic, the Bible Project.
Those are the kinds of gifts that the church has, and they use creativity. You could be a person who knows nothing, and you say, how do I figure out what this book is about? And in 8 minutes, you have a picture. You could print it out. Chris, I printed them out. I love the way it is. And it's all of a sudden, bada bing, bada boom, you got the whole book, the thesis, the theme, the this, the that. It's amazing.
You know, one of the most popular religious podcasts last year, at least, I don't know what it is this if it's the same this year, is a Catholic priest who just started reading the Bible. And he would read it and give a little commentary, and then that was it. And it became the biggest podcast for, I don't know if it went, I know it was like one of the biggest in the spiritual and religious category. I don't know if it went beyond that, but still everybody was talking about him and they'd listen, and all he did was just read the Bible.
Well, it's sharper. It's alive, sharper than any double-edged sword, pierces to the very marrow of our being. Isn't it? Yeah, the Word of God is not just a book. It's alive. But again, we know from the survey that people don't know that.
That's right.
But they wished you could use that word. I wish I knew more about it.
Well, that should become a
that's
mission.
Our challenge.
Well, that should become a mission of friends of the FOI Equip of the Jew and Gentile podcast, is to keep in mind our 71% of friends who want to engage with the scriptures, but they don't know how, and they want to know how, and we can help them through this process. So it just might be something that we need to sit down and begin to think about. Keeping in mind not just our very well-read Bible readers who are our listeners, but also those who at the same time are going, where do I start? Sometimes I think even when I am teaching from the pulpit, I think even as I'm speaking, I'm going, I wonder how many people know what I'm saying right now, because I'm assuming they know what I'm saying. But there's probably a lot of people out there that are going, what's this guy talk? 70 weeks of Daniel. Where is Daniel? That kind of... Honestly,
we need to keep that in mind. It's very important.
Yeah,
it is very
101.
Important.
So anyway, state of the Bible. That's great. Steve, we don't have much time, but I'd like to get to some of these things that you have here, because you have a very important document.
I do have a document. Chris, I can't tell you how long ago it was when your dad went to be with the Lord. How long ago was that?
That was 2012, so almost 12 years coming up.
2012, and of course you were younger. You were a younger guy. For me, my dad was 2008. And in Judaism, when the person dies, they go through stages of mourning. It's an interesting thing. First, you have the 7 days of Shiva, and those are days that intense mourning. The rabbis say you should be weeping. You should be remembering their lives. They rip your garment as a sign of mourning, just out of the Older Testament text, as whenever they heard of something so horrible, they ripped their garments open. And so for 7 days, people visit you, and they talk about the loved one, and there's weeping.
Shiva.
You sit Shiva for 7 days. After that, it's a 30-day thing. You go back to work, you start your life again, but you can't have happy music. If you read the Bible, you can only read sad books. You're still mourning, but you've passed the 7-day mourning stage. And then there's the year anniversary of the death. So you've buried the person within 24 hours. That you go to the gravesite, and Judaism, Orthodox Judaism, teaches burial. I know people are getting cremated, and some Orthodox are too, but generally speaking, it's still burial. So then a year later, you go back to the place where the person was buried, and the family goes, and it's called an unveiling. That the stone that you had of that person, their birth, their death, anything you write on there is covered with a cloth. And
all year long.
You will not see that stone until the year anniversary, no matter when you buy it. So you go there, and it's the unveiling, and it's a remembrance of that person. And the psychological aspect is, in Judaism, the idea is we mourn. We're not ashamed to mourn. It's a loss. This person is dead. We miss them. We yearn for them. And the 7 days, and the 30 days, and then the year. And then the rabbis say, after that, of course you'll remember them, but enough already. You live. It's you live. I think that is such a great thing.
What was your line? Enough already?
Enough already. Enough already.
You're done. Move on.
That's right. You're done. But you're not done, because every year, in my case, when my father passed away, there was a funeral home that managed it, and in Judaism, they keep the records of all of them, and all their family get a remembrance letter that coming up is the anniversary of the death of your father, and we light a candle. Jewish people will light a candle. It's called a Yahrzeit candle, and you remember that person. It's a 24-hour candle. Now, of course, they use electricity. Who knows? They might have an app for it. I don't even know.
Just get your phone out.
But you buy a candle. There's special candles you can buy, and you light it. And your kids are going to say, "Oh, what's the candle? Oh, that's when so-and-so passed away, and we remember them." There's the idea of remembering. You're not mourning anymore. You're remembering. And so I just, now for your dad,
Can I see that?
Sure. For your dad, I think it's your family, your mom, your sisters. You remember that person, but there's no anybody from a religious group who's saying, hey, you better remember. In Judaism, there is. And we remember them. And in the synagogue, there's the community. So like we're going to be talking about Yom Kippur, Rosh Hashanah. Everybody in the synagogue who has a loved one who passed away, they all stand up together and they recite what's called Yizkor, which is a prayer of liturgy over the dead.
That is literally to remember.
To remember. In fact, the person's name, when you say this liturgy, the person's name isn't even in the liturgy. It's, if you translate it, it's a praise to God.
Yeah.
God, the creator of the universe, the one who we love, the who was, is, all those things. It's a praise.
It says, Eternal God, as I kindle this Yahrzeit candle on the anniversary of the death of my beloved Nathan Herzig, the memory of his life passes before me. I reverently call the moments we shared together. Time cannot efface the measure of his memories. I shall never be grateful for the sacrifice made in my behalf. With affection and understanding, he stood by my side to guide and encourage me when I needed help. He taught me to love thee, O God, and to keep thy commandment. And then it says, Yizkor dates, the remembrance dates, which is Yom Kippur, Passover, Shavuot, and Shmini Atzeret. I don't know what that one means.
That's new to me.
What?
Last one.
Shemona Esrei. It's the right after, I forgot on the calendar exactly when it is. But
it's after Yom Kippur.
Yeah.
Yeah. Interesting.
Yep. And so I thought that would be helpful for our listeners.
And it comes in the mail like this.
It comes in the mail. Now, they're trying to get me. They reminded me of Friends of Israel. Give it an example. We want people who are on our mailing list to get on our email list. Yeah. And I'm not on their email list. So what do they say? Please return this portion for a change of address. In big letters, we want your email address. And so I'm going to do it. I'm going to send it to them.
We want to send
because they don't want to spend the postage. I don't blame them.
They want a digital Yahrzeit.
Everybody's digital. That's right. We're going to digital. Everything's digital. But
you're such a boomer. You're such a boomer.
Am I a boomer? You should only know such boomers.
All right, boomer. We got some news to talk about here.
Yes, we do.
You found some interesting stuff. We've been texting back. First, you know what? I want to start with this one, Steve, because I'd like to give
Which one are you going to?
The No Camels one. I'd like to give a shout out to our to Shelby, who serves with us on FOI Equip. If you are a follower of our FOI Equip,
she was an intern with us too.
She was an intern last year, and through her internship, she got involved with our social media page, FOI Equip Facebook page. So if you enjoy our FOI Equip Facebook page, or maybe you didn't know we had a Facebook page, you can go and like us now at for our FOI Equip. And she's the one who goes and finds all the fantastic news that we have and shares ways people can get involved. And so, Shelby, thank you so much. She sent this to us. Israel, Japan signed innovation deal to boost $3 billion trade ties. Israel and Japan are advancing their innovation cooperation as they drive to expand their $3.3 billion commercial relationship. Israeli Economy Minister Nir Barkat met this week in Tel Aviv with his Japanese counterpart, Nashutoshi Nishimura.
You're such a boomer.
I know. I'm it'd be better if you had an Israeli name.
No, we have Roxanne here who speaks like 4 languages. Could you?
Do you do Japanese?
No.
Okay.
I was going to say something.
But he says to sign an agreement formalizing a bilateral understanding of economic and innovation ties.
That's easy. Nishimura.
You had time to think about it.
Nishimura.
I was on the spot.
Nishimura. But Chris, think about this. Just in terms of the different races that there are, what a combo. An Israeli and a Japanese person.
Boom.
You are talking about 2 of the outstanding cultures that are innovative. You have one who dreams big dreams, the Jewish people, and don't spend generally a lot of time on details, and the Japanese who know how to do it.
Oh, yeah.
You put them together, what do they say, 3.3 billion? I think that's underestimated.
Well, I'd also like to highlight Nir Barkat, Israeli economy minister. Nir is in the Knesset in the Likud party, which is Benjamin Netanyahu's party. Now, if you talk to people, remember, Israel is still a pretty conservative, moderate, right-leaning country. And so a lot of people are concerned about Netanyahu's government being a little too far right in the religious component. And so Nir Barkat, though, he was the mayor of Jerusalem, and he gets a lot of attention for potentially being the next prime minister once Netanyahu moves off the scene. He's still in the same party as Netanyahu, and he has a very big track record for the way that he managed Jerusalem for many years. And actually, the last time we were in Jerusalem, Jim and I and the group were at the Pool of Siloam, and there was Nir Barkat checking it out, and Jim had a chance to chat with Nir. So now Nir's with Jim, and now Nir's with Yashu Toshi. So there you go.
You never know. Anyway, I thought that was a great one.
Thank you, Shelby.
That's right. The other comes actually from the New York Times.
Oh, this is a big one.
Yiddish is having a moment.
Now, you found that. You found this and you sent this to me, but you found it through...
I found it through a third party.
Yeah.
And the third party...
Which was once known as Twitter.
No, well, actually, that's not entirely true. I actually found it through a gal who works here at Friends of Israel. And Brooke Goldstein is a friend of Friends of Israel. We had Brooke Goldstein at one of our Honor Israel nights a number of years ago. She's a lawyer, a Canadian, lives in New York, and has started her own group.
Lawfare practice, yeah.
And so Brooke Goldstein found the article. Martha found it and sent it to me, and then we found it in the New York Times.
There's a lot of finding going on.
Yeah, there's a lot of finding, and it's important to us because we've been talking a lot about Yiddish, and it's interesting the way this writer, who is Ian Stavins, writes about it, because Yiddish. How did he word what Yiddish is? Let me. In contrast, Yiddish represents exile, a longing for home. It was the backbone of the Jewish labor movement in the United States. And the feminist Emma Goldman championed women's equality and free love in Yiddish. And so they talked about, this was the language of the worker, the middle class, the one who was outside of Jerusalem, out of Israel, the diaspora. Hebrew, on the other hand, which officially became the national language of the State of Israel in 1948, is spoken about 9 million people around the world, symbolizes the far-right Israeli militarism.
Oh, it's crazy, isn't it?
You just say... What is...
Well, and listen to how, again, the article's not long.
No.
But it's called Yiddish is Having a Moment, and Yiddish is having a moment. Look, we do a Yiddish word of the day. We love Yiddish. But it talks about some of the obstacles that Yiddish has had over the years. Of course, one being the Holocaust and the Enlightenment, and, of course, secularism. All these things played a role with Yiddish kind of losing its influence. But listen to what it says. It titles it like this. Another enemy of Yiddish was Zionism. In the late 19th century, as the hope for a Jewish state found its ground, it was portrayed as jargon spoken by the diaspora, the language of homelessness, without a true national voice. To combat this deficit, Hebrew needed to be revived. Soon the myth sprung of the Hebrew pioneer in sharp contrast with the large-nosed, hunchbacked Jew that Zionists themselves vilified. And that's when he said Hebrew, which officially became the national language of the State of Israel in 1948, is spoken about 9 million people around the world. For some, the language symbolizes far-right Israeli militarism. So he's actually saying not even Hebrew, but Zionism was an enemy of Yiddish, which, to me, it's just so backwards because...
The enemy of Yiddish were the Nazis. They wiped out 3 million Polish people. 3 of the 6 million people were Polish people. And Yiddish was a language of Eastern Europe.
Exactly.
So the enemy of Yiddish was the guns of the Nazis.
And, you can't... the whole point, it's just another good lesson for us to do a spot on Ben Yehuda. What's his name again? My brain.
Ben Yehuda.
Yeah, Ben Yehuda.
Yeah.
But what's his first name?
I don't know. I always call him Ben Yehuda.
No, but he has a first. But anyway, Ben Yehuda, who resurrected the Hebrew language, he probably knew Yiddish. He came from that area.
Wait a minute. We have
Eliezer. I know everybody. I can just see Tom Gagan right now going, Eliezer, guys, Eliezer. Eliezer Ben Yehuda. There he is.
There he is. Ben Yehuda.
He is the one who resurrected the Hebrew language, and the reason he wanted to
Look
do
at
it.
how scholarly he looks.
That he was a
Chris.
very scholarly man.
He was a very scholarly man.
But the point for him resurrecting Hebrew was not to make it a militaristic endeavor, right-wing endeavor. The man created or revived Hebrew because he knew the Jewish people needed a national language, and he didn't want them speaking German, and he didn't want Jewish people coming back to the land speaking English or French. They needed a language, and so he decided, I'm going to resurrect. He did it. It
was the language of the people then. It's the language of the people now.
In the land. So I agree with you. It is not the enemy of Zionism. That's just crazy.
No, I don't want to kind of booby trap the whole time we're here, but this is a great time. I know you didn't get to see it, but Roxanne, you got to see Golda.
Yes.
And Golda was a person who came out of Eastern Europe.
Poland.
Out of Poland. She, I'm sure, heard Yiddish. Her family came to Milwaukee. She was a school teacher, and she moved back to Israel. Part of that group of people who wanted the land, the people, to come together, a safe haven for the Jewish people. And that movie, Golda, actually was just about a 21-day, 3-week part of her life while she was going through cancer treatment. The Yom Kippur War happened.
The Yom Kippur.
How did Golda affect you?
There was one scene that was really impactful to me. It was the scene where she walks into the room and nobody stands up to greet her or to honor her as she walks in.
And she's the prime minister.
She's the prime minister, but she brushed it off because she knew there was a bigger picture. There was more important things. And she sat down, and not only that, she encouraged the people around her. And she never belittled their ideas, but she challenged them to consider things from a different perspective. That's what I got. But what really threw me like that I loved so much is when she was talking to the president on the phone. And he was telling her, please stand down. And she shared her testimony about how she would hide in the basement. Her father would hide her in the basement. And she said, I'm not that child anymore. And she hung up on him.
And I would say, in reference to the New York Times article, that's maybe what they think. That's the reason for Hebrew. It is resurrected, and enough already. We took it on the chin. If we're going down, and it looked like they were. There was a point in the war, the Yom Kippur War, where it looked very bleak for the Jewish people. And they weren't proactive the way they were in the 67 war because America put pressure on them. But this is survival. And the stiff upper lip, as you would. In fact, in the movie, they portrayed Diane, who was a general, a war hero. Moshe Dayan, who he took it hard. The great defeat that was taking place. It was taking place in real time. They were hearing people die. Whole platoons were wiped out. Explosions. He was up on a helicopter and he watched a whole battle wipe out that whole group of Israelis.
You got Moshe staring right at me here, huh? Is that him right there?
There he is.
Bada bing,
There
bada
he
bing.
is. There's Moshe.
With his one eye staring at me.
It was, at least in the movie, the way they portrayed it, it was Golda who said, go into your house, wash your face, and come back here. I need you.
I need you.
I need you. And they were saying that all in Hebrew, by the way. And not in the movie, but keep in mind, that's the language. That's the power, if you will. And so I would be the first to admit that Hebrew is the language of the Jewish people. Yiddish made it possible, the bridge language, to unite the people in the diaspora until God would begin to move
Yiddish
them.
is basically Hebrew looking.
We love Yiddish.
Yeah, it's Hebrew looking with German and all that.
But Hebrew
Slavic
and Zionism is a fact. But don't make Zionism this far right. They're a liberal Hebrew speaker.
It's not the enemy. Zionism is not the enemy of Yiddish.
That's right.
All right, Steve, actually, we're almost out of time, so we got to do the Yiddish word, though. So we'll come back to this news next week. But here we go. Yiddish word, everybody. Steve, I'm going to let you do the Yiddish word.
The Yiddish word for the day is Yahrzeit.
Yahrzeit. We already said it.
Year time. Year time. That's what Yahrzeit means.
Now, I do have an official.
You got an official. What am I, chopped liver?
No, you're a boomer.
I got nothing.
You're a boomer.
Don't be a boomer. What's it mean?
Yahrzeit, an annual ritual that encourages mourners. That's an oxymoron. Encourages mourners to remember, honor, and commemorate a loved one.
That's right.
What is it again?
Yahrzeit.
No, but what's the actual year what?
Year time.
It's
an anniversary. Year time.
Time of year.
Not your time.
No.
Year time.
All right. Year time. Yahrzeit. Steve, thank you so much.
Roxanne, thanks for coming.
I do have a question.
Okay, go ahead.
Would we ever consider bringing in Ladino, which is the equivalent of Yiddish in German, Ladino and Hebrew and Spanish?
Sephardic Jews use Ladino. That's the bridge language for them. But since I'm Ashkenazi, what do I got?
We'll take
Sephardic.
We'll take you. You want to come back, talk about Ladino?
Well, I'll bring up a word for you.
There you go.
All right, everybody. Thank you so much, Roxanne, for being a part of the Jew and Gentile podcast. You're fantastic. Hey, everybody. Thanks for joining us this week. Just remember to go to foiequip.org, and there you can register for the one and only Jewish Sage. You can register for his class on the Fall Feast of Israel. Hey, text us 424-444-1948. Let us know if you're interested in getting a
mug on a mug.
Mug on a mug. We got 2 mugs on a mug here. So be sure to text us at 424-444-1948. Hey, thank you so much for being with us. We'll see you next week.